Welcome back, folks. Craig Bushon live. Be First in Media, BeFirstInMedia.com. We are, let me tell you, first of all, very excited about today's political world, the political field that's out there. I think it's a great time for conservatives to get their message out, and that's what we're doing here with Be First in Media. And as we say, we are leading the conservative internet revolution. You know, they're taking the fight back. Where, listen, the conservatives have kind of stayed out of what I would call the 18 to 29-year-old language field, which is the internet. And the broadcasting world is changing, and we're excited about doing hyper-local stuff like this, where we had Greg Abbott out with Tony Dale, and he's obviously running for House District 136, and it's an exciting time because he's a person that's a veteran, he's a person that's a family man, he's a person that he's a friend of mine. But listen, I have friends of mine that I would not want to have in office. Make no mistake about that. Like most of you. But listen, some people are specifically designed because of their past, and they're also because of their disposition and their nature would serve well for you and I. Okay, so it isn't an automatic because a person is a veteran that they should be a politician. It isn't automatic because they're a city councilman in a town called Cedar Park or a city called Cedar Park that they should be a state rep. It takes specific people, and you know it's a serious deal when you have Mr. Greg Abbott, the Attorney General to the great state of Texas, former Supreme Court state of Texas, helped lead the battle against the Affordable Health Care Act, and he showed up today to endorse Tony Dale. But someone else is here too who knows Tony Dale really well, and he's now the new mayor of City Park. We have Mr. Matt Powell. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What a great event.
Great event. Fantastic turnout. Saw a lot of old friends, met a lot of new friends. Nice to see people out supporting Tony. Obviously, it's a cause that's near and dear to my heart, and warmed my heart to be here.
Well, first of all, tell the folks a little bit about yourself. I said a new mayor. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about who you are and how you became mayor.
Oh, sure. Well, I was elected mayor in May, so I'm relatively new, still a little wet behind the ears. People ask me how long I've been mayor, and I look at my wristwatch. But prior to that, I spent 7 years on the Cedar Park City Council, and prior to that, various activities in the community. Probably most importantly, I'm a husband and father. My wife Heather and daughter Lark, just wonderful support systems for me, and it's been a great adventure so far. People have asked me today, being here, so how is being mayor different from being on the city council? And what I tell them is, I thought it would be like being on the city council and maybe a slight additional time commitment. Well, so it turns out it's a lot more, and it's been a challenge to balance all the time, but so far it's been a really wonderful adventure.
Well, there's many city council people. There's one mayor.
True.
And you're kind of here at the top in the city, right? And you have a lot of responsibility. And like I said, in the opening, not everyone who's been a city council person or everyone who's been mayor should be a state representative either. It takes a specific individual, or at least it should. We have a lot of people, unfortunately, serving not only the state of Texas, but all over this great country who should not be serving. But Tony Dale's not one of those. He has a specific skill set, but you've been around him. What do you see are some key things that he brings to the table that makes him, the man for the job?
Well, it's interesting. I've known Tony, obviously, a very long time. I consider him my best friend in the world. Trust him a lot. He and his wife stood as godparents to my daughter after she was born. My first act as mayor was to make him my mayor pro tem, which is kind of like being the vice mayor of the city. And so obviously someone I have a lot of personal trust in. But I think back to the Tony Dale that I knew before our great friendship blossomed. And what I knew him as prior to that was just this immensely qualified person. He was volunteering. He was serving on boards with the county and then later with the city. Someone who was very active in his community, active in his faith community and in his church. And just an impressive person all around. Obviously, someone that was, I think, without consciously doing so. He wasn't doing it for the purposes of saying, hey, someday I want to hold an elected office. But one of those people that you start saying, okay, if a position came open, is that someone that would be qualified to do it? Is that someone that's putting themselves in the right position, and I can't think of anyone that's done it better in our community than Tony, and that's why it's such an honor to be supporting him in this fashion.
Well, what's unique about people like Tony is that he didn't grow up wanting to be a politician. You know, he found the fight, just like he is as a veteran, serving in the armed forces. Obviously, you have to be prepared to battle, and the political field is the same way. There is a fight afoot in this great nation, and it trickles all the way down to local politics. And as the saying goes, the closest politics to you is the one that affects you the most.
Absolutely.
And what tends to happen, hence why we have BFIM, this hyper-local media that we're really developing, because we can't get regular media to show up anymore. So these local races don't have the impact that they should have. People just see what's going on, especially when there's a presidential election going on. And that's a dangerous thing in a republic where every person we vote in is to represent us. If we don't know what they're doing and why they're doing it, we can have some pretty interesting characters serving us.
Oh, there's no question, and it's always been my one of my great personal political philosophies that the smaller entity generally knows better. I think that the Texas legislature knows better what the state of Texas needs than the federal government does. I think that Williamson County knows better what Williamson County needs than the state legislature. I think that the Cedar Park City Council knows better about our city than the county does. I think that my HOA knows my neighborhood better than the city does, and I certainly know my property better than my HOA does. So, and my wife certainly knows my house better than I do. So, I think Tony subscribes to that quite a bit. I think it'll be an interesting challenge for him because he has been serving in this role where it's been such representative government. He and I don't go to HEB and get into the produce section without someone stopping us saying, "Hey, what's going on with this road project?" Or, "Hey, I heard that Costco's coming to town. What's the deal with that?" I love it. I always feel like I probably should do my hair and shave before I go to the grocery store anymore. But I know that Tony shares that philosophy. That's why I have a lot of faith in him going to that next level, if you will, and going down to the state capitol, because I know that one, he'll be home every day and he will be in district and understanding those issues. And second, that's just what he knows. He knows how to be in constant contact with his constituents. It gives you a lot of faith when you send someone to go represent you, to know that they're going to represent you in that way.
Yeah, his family's behind him, his children are behind him, I should say his
100%.
wife and his children. And a lot of times, it's hard to get to rally the troops even in your own family, because politics can get ugly, and it can be kind of boring too, in a sense, and mundane. Every day you got to get out there and, shake hands, kiss babies, and then on top of that, walk the blocks and knock on the doors, But being an accessible politician, to me, is the key thing to cure what's wrong with this country. Just what you said, having that boots on the ground, approachable politicians who are not afraid to talk with just, you say you should do your hair and stuff, people go to the store, they have their sandals on, they have a tank top on, the regular guy look, right?
Yeah.
But being approachable is a key thing to make sure it allows people to feel that they have a voice. When the politicians, no matter what leader they're at, what level they're at, listen to them.
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. It's those people that are connected to the community that you really have that faith in. I was recently having a conversation with our Congressman, John Carter, and he told me he's been up there in Washington. I believe I think we elected him in 2002, something like that, so he's probably been up there since early 2003. But he told me about the ridiculously low number of weekends that he's spent in Washington. He spends a lot of time on airplanes coming back to Texas, and I asked him why. I mean, I have a commute to work. It's certainly not an airplane ride anywhere, but I know it gets tiresome. And I think that a lot of people could use him as a model. He says, "Well, I'm going to go up there because that's where the voting takes place. But the job is here. The job is here, listening to people." I subscribe to that. I know Tony does, and I've got a council now, Craig, that is filled with people that are active in their community, that are constantly out there. When I used to not understand the value of going to an event like a ribbon cutting, I thought, oh, that's just a self-serving politician thing to do. That's not it at all. You're out there, you're talking to the small business owner, you're celebrating their accomplishment, their connection to the community, but you're also able to ask those questions. How did the permitting process go?
Yeah, because they built it.
Absolutely.
Because
they built it. They built it. Absolutely.
Right. Sorry to throw that in there, but
not at all. And you are right. But there are certain government functions, certain hoops that they have to jump through. I recognize the reason that regulation and safety and all of those things exist. But at the same time, I don't want it to be onerous in the city of Cedar Park. I don't want it to be overly rigid. I want it to be a flexible, understanding process that is going to make sure that they're opening the business safely and doing the things that they need to do. But at the same time, never serving as being a discouraging factor for small and medium-sized business to come in and open their doors and to serve that community.
Absolutely correct. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I'm glad to see leaders like yourself going up through the ranks. And now you're the mayor. Now you even have more that you can do. The days are longer, as you mentioned, but the fight is very well worth it. I want more younger people to realize it's worth becoming all the way up to the President of the United States.
Completely agree.
It's worth it. We need to clean up the system so it's dignified all the way to the top. And the only way they do that is by putting very, very strong people in that are great family people and that care about the dignity of being a leader in the political world.
Agree with you there.
I want to thank you so much. It's Mr. Matt Powell, the mayor of Cedar Park. And if you've never been to Cedar Park, you need to check it out. There's a lot of great stuff coming.
Come spend some money.
Yeah, there you go. There's a water park coming, I believe. Someday, maybe. Maybe not.
We're certainly hoping, but we've got more and more shopping and dining options on the ground. Like I said, great small and medium-sized businesses that can help you out. And hey, we're about 2 weeks away from the start of another hockey season, so that's always
right.
a good thing too.
You got the Stars out there. They're the
world champion Austin Toros.
They're absolutely very connected to the San Antonio Spurs in the D League, and then the Stars are connected to right up out of Dallas. There's a lot of stuff happening in Cedar Park.
Absolutely, it's a great place to be.
So check it out. What's the website for the city?
CedarParkTexas.gov.
CedarParkTexas.gov. This is Craig Bushon, Be First in Media. When we come back, we're going to sit down with the man of the day today, the one that we're all talking about, and why Mr. Greg Abbott showed up to endorse him officially in front of many, many people here, Mr. Tony Dale. This is Craig Bushon. Be back in a moment.